Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, we're going to be painting a sunflower on a black background. We're doing this as part of our large flower series. We've done several dozen of these, or at least 2 dozen, maybe more. I don't know. I think I counted the other day, and it was over 20 something. So anyhow, I've got my husband Mark with me for this live stream.
Hey everybody.
It's starting out great.
Just rambling.
Rambling. Yeah, let's get started. My face is hot. Like blushing. Oh my goodness. Whenever I go off script, it always doesn't go well because I've already been, drawing and things. My art brain is taking over and just never quite can get my words out. All right, I'm using a 10 by 10 inch canvas today. I have painted it with a light coat of yellow just to tone it, give us a base to start with, a little head start.
Just yellow?
India yellow to be precise, but doesn't really matter, just a little bit, and then used a paper towel to wipe it on with some water. And yeah, so you can see it's kind of see-through, patchy, but my other option was like a burnt umber, like a warm color is probably what I would go with. So either like a light red, or light pink, or orange, or yellow. So we ended up with yellow. All right, which may make it a little bit tricky because my petals are going to be yellow. So may make it hard to see what I'm doing at first. So I didn't really think that through very much. So once we get our drawing set, we'll probably paint the background in so we can kind of see what we're doing. As far as brushes go, I'm going to probably be using an angled brush for some of the dots and things, but for the petals, I'll probably be using like either a flat or a filbert brush. So just whatever you've got that kind of fits the size of the petals is best. So if you're doing it on a really large canvas, you can size up your brush to fit the petal size. And then for the background, I'm just going to probably use the angle brush so I can kind of get down into these tight corners. And that's about it. I might use a blender to do some blending, potentially. I'm not really sure. So those will be our brushes. Just grab what you've got. They don't have to be the exact same ones that I'm using. Let me go over my colors. I've got carbon black. We've got part of the thing showing again. I need to zoom in a little bit. Carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, India yellow hue, cadmium yellow medium hue. These are fluid paints, so I'm using the golden fluid, and then where they didn't have the colors, I'm using the Matisse. What are you looking for?
My zoomy thing. But go ahead, just keep going.
And then, so the Matisse colors are burnt umber and cadmium yellow light, because they don't have those in the golden paint colors. This one is Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Titan Buff, Titanium White, and Gloss Glazing Liquid. Or, I'm sorry, Satin Glazing Liquid. All right, thank you. That little sliver of the palette showing was really throwing me off so bad. It's like my brain couldn't not look at it. I know, look at it's right there. It's right there. Why is that there? hate it sometimes. All right, so I've kind of pre-drawn this. Sunflower to me is one of the easiest flowers to paint. One of the easiest methods is to draw your circle and realize that your petals are never going to be bigger than the center of your sunflower head. So oftentimes, whatever size the width of your sunflower head is, that'll be the length of your longest petal, and then everything else will be kind of in between. Generally, there'll be like 2 rows of petals that are kind of overlapping somewhat. This one kind of just has 1 layer of petals, and they're kind of overlapping a little bit, but There's not like 2 rows. Actually, 1 row. I should say most sunflowers have 1 row of petals, but they overlap a little bit. All right. And the other thing that you can do is to kind of find your center. So this one's kind of off center a little bit. So it's like a little bit of an oval shape here. Then once you kind of know that, then you can sort of do your little marks through it. And then your petals are going to come off of those marks. And so each of the petals should, where they kind of center, should be pointing towards the center of your flower as they meet up with this particular, this part of it here. That makes sense. So that way your petals don't start to get skewed, because it's easy to get going on your petals and have them all kind of go in the same direction. So you end up with petals all kind of, petals kind of facing like this, and do where they kind of get smushed and then they sort of look weird. So they should all be pointing in towards your center mark, so that if you drew a line straight from the tip to the center, they would match up. That makes sense. I mean, the tip can curve a little bit, but the main part of the petal should be like this. And you can see here where it kind of does a curve here, So that's not necessarily, unless the petal was really wilted, it wouldn't be doing that. Okay? All right, let's get on here. Get the idea. All right, so I've already got the yellow down. So what I'm going to do is just kind of highlight those edges with a little bit brighter yellow to draw them out, and then we'll start adding some red to them. So I'm going to... I may regret using this color. Look at it. It's like really, really marking up my petals. It's all right. There's some red in them. So
I don't like how my name is used in expressing bad things.
There's a mark on, mark on here. It's true. I never thought about that. Well, we're already getting our color there just by doing this, so maybe it's a good thing. It's going to give us a head start. I think I threw in an extra petal here. Drew in an extra petal. So that's kind of, this one is sort of right. This one and this one are kind of right in the middle. And we got this one. This one's tucked behind it. Another one here. So I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their... We've had an extended spring. Usually by this time of year, it's like really hot here. And we have had a really nice spring here in Arkansas. It's been really... Although, despite the tornadoes and... Well, no, there were some really bad tornadoes north of us this last week.
Other than the tornadoes and hail and damaging winds, it's been
beautiful.
It's been nice.
That's true. Well, take what you can get.
Floods.
It's either that or earthquakes and hurricanes, or it doesn't. I don't think there's really anywhere, or you go north of it and then you got your snowstorms. So like, I don't think there's any place you can go anymore that there's not going to be some sort of natural disaster happening. But anyhow, I don't know how we got on that topic, but it's
You're
good.
just talking about how nice the spring has been.
Yes, it has been.
And our sunflowers are loving it.
They are. We've got some. I know I should have cut one today. I actually meant to cut one, but it was too tall for me to reach, so I was going to have
Do
you
I
go
need to
do
it
it.
real quick?
Yeah, if you don't
want
mind.
One that looks like this?
Yeah, if you
Okay.
can find one. I know the one that looks like this is kind of facing the neighbor, so you may have to cut the whole.
We'll see.
There's like 3 or 4 heads on it.
I'll be back.
And there's another one that's kind of a light pink, light yellow that would work too.
Okay, don't go anywhere.
Okay, thank you. That's awesome. We'll have a in-studio inspiration here. So I'm using my 2 flat here, and I'm just kind of drawing along my edges of my chalk lines. I use just a regular Hagoromo chalk that normally use, but because it's brown, it's really like tinted, so it's actually mixing with my paint color here, which you may not have. So if you don't have this kind of brown color of chalk, you could just add a little bit of burnt sienna or a little bit of like, really this color reminds me of quinacridone burnt orange, so which is could be mixed with like let me try mixing it and see, burnt sienna kind of and and quinacridone magenta in equal parts, and then I'm using that yellow and white to mix with it. So yeah, so I mean obviously lighter than that, but that's pretty much the tone that we're getting here. So I could use that color with my yellow. It's kind of a soft salmon color, and use that to draw in my petals. And you get the kind of basically a similar effect as to what I'm getting with my chalk. I'm going to go back to my chalk color because I don't need it to be that pink right now. Not at the tips of them, at least. Just kind of drawing them in. And once I get kind of my drawing set, then I can erase my background, and then we'll be able to see what we're doing a little bit easier. So there's one really large one right here. And then one that kind of comes in front. I didn't get my drawing right on that one very much. There we go. Let me go a little bit taller with that one.
The bees were not too happy.
What?
So
The bees were not too happy
the
about you
bees
taking
were-
their
Bees were like,
there's
"What
some
are
flower.
you doing?"
Oh, look at him. Yeah, that's almost exactly. Isn't that pretty? He's all wet because we got some sun or some wet rain. I can't use my words today at all. I swear. I wish I had room for the leaves to go on here, but I don't. But yeah, we'll set him aside over here to look at. Actually, would you get my little? There's a little black vase. It's on the bottom shelf of that thing where we turn on the lights on and off, the little shelving unit right there. Yeah, get that and put some water in it for. I'll just stick him in there. Oh, he's dripping on my canvas. We'll have sunflower juice on our canvas. See if I can paint and hold him in one hand. It's always fun to have the actual subject in hand. This is from this photograph that we're working with was from a couple of years ago. We had one year where we had just a ton of sunflowers come up, and they got really big, and then a hedgehog came through, and he didn't even eat the flower heads. That was what's made me so mad, because if he was hungry, like, I could understand it. He pulled he chewed around the stalk like a beaver, knocked them down, and then ate the leaves off of them. He just ate the leaves. I was like, oh, little booger. And he, like, I mean, I had a whole row of, I had a picture of it on Facebook. I posted on Facebook about it because I was so mad. He would come out right in the middle of the day, a little brazen guy. He just would come and knock them down, chew them down. But one night I came out and he had knocked down the entire row, and there were probably 8 or 9 plants, fully grown sunflowers that were just gonna bloom, that he ate. Just the leaves.
This one here.
Yeah, no. It's on the ground. It's on the bottom shelf, like the shelf.
Yeah.
Where the light is. No, not the big shelving unit.
Okay.
The little flat
Oh.
right there on the bottom shelf. Sorry, I can't seem to use my words properly today.
Maybe this one?
Yes. Yeah, just a little bit of water in it. All right. Good. This one's actually a pretty easy one, I would say, like on the difficulty scale. You know, I have several of my large flowers that have been fairly difficult. This one, I would say kind of would fall somewhere in the middle. You know, it's got lots of petals, and you know, some overlapping of colors, but I don't think it's particularly difficult. Like the shape of the petals is pretty easy, and to draw it is pretty easy. So there we go. He's in his little vase now. You found it. Thank you, hon. I don't know if I can get him on camera.
Okay, one side cameras.
There we go. Just put him sort of right there. He's just watching. He's like overseeing what we're doing here. Quality control person. Just making sure we get it right. Okay, so I think we're pretty close there. Go a little bit longer with that one. Right. Yeah. And let's go ahead and do the center of it too while we're at it. I'm going to get a little bit bigger brush this time. This is the 4 Filbert. And we'll do in our center with some color. And I like to make the centers like a little bit maroon or like slightly purple. So I'm going to use the Ultramarine Blue and Quinacridone Magenta to make my dark color for the center there. And I'm not going to cover up my petals quite yet, so I'm just going to try to get the basic shape, leave it loose around the edges. Okay, and then there is kind of an area right in here that is lighter. Huh?
Is that a focus you're painting?
My painting's out of focus?
Or was?
Is it working now?
I think so. Maybe it's my resolution.
Okay, so we'll leave it like that. Could be okay. Yeah, it does look a little blurry.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm sorry. Gonna have to. It's about focus auto, so it's the. Oh, let's do an auto. Auto. Okay, let's see if that does better. Is that focusing now?
You did there.
Okay.
I guess it's because the flowers look blurry.
And I think it's because it's so yellow. I think once I do this black, it'll hopefully help.
Okay.
So I'll do that now. Sorry about that.
Welcome to the channel if you're new.
Yeah,
We've been doing this for years.
we're professionals. We know what we're
We know
doing.
exactly how to do this.
This is what you get when you live stream. This all would be edited out, you know, if you're watching somebody else with a slick, you know, pre-recorded video, but who wants that?
On all the warts and everything.
Yeah, get all the This is the real deal. You get to see the whole process of all the mistakes and all that. But hopefully my mistakes will make for your process to be a little bit easier, maybe help you be a little bit less afraid to take the plunge and jump in there and try it. It's all paint. It can be painted over, so there's no...
Having a hard time to focus. We need something in there you can focus on.
Why is it not doing?
No,
Maybe time for a new camera? There you go. You know.
zoomed in a little bit. It's working.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to do this, and then I'm probably going to go back over these edges and kind of adjust the shape of some of these petals, but this will give us a start at least. I could have painted the background black. I mean, I thought about doing it because the sunflower is so light. It would have taken several coats to get the vibrancy of the yellow back, you know, over the top of black. So I just like cutting in with the black. That's just my preference, but you could always start with black and just do a couple layers of yellow to get it.
Would you have to add white to your yellow to help get
Yes,
the coverage?
for sure. For sure you would. Yeah.
I've learned something over the last
Exactly.
10, 12 years.
He asked knowingly.
Well, I was like 93% confident.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to get any paint on my sunflower here. It is pretty with the water droplets all on it, on its face. I need to take a photograph of that, although I could paint sunflowers multiple times a year. I think I have painted sunflowers multiple times a year. They're just so fun, and there's so many different varieties of colors. So I have several different ones. I've even done one in this series already that was just a yellow sunflower. But this one was so pretty. I just loved the colors in it. That pink, it has a name. I think it was like a strawberry something or other. I don't know the name, or cherry, I think. Cherry something. So it's got like a really pink tone to it, which is kind of unusual. I don't think it's actually this one that we have even. I think this one's Fantasia that has got a more rosy tone to it. I think this one was the cherry something or other.
Yeah, there was one that was a little bit lighter, but I couldn't get enough of the stem for
Oh,
and
yeah.
then also the bees were hanging around those more.
Yeah, the bees have been loving my larkspur too. My larkspur is kind of planted right next to my sunflowers, and those we're going to be painting in a couple of weeks, I think. I don't think it's next week, maybe the week after. But they have. It's been hard to come in and get flowers because they're just like kind of dive bombing. They're not really too interested in what I'm doing as long as I'm not messing with their flowers. But if I get close to them, especially when they've got a flower that they're after, they get a little aggressive. So
Like, hey, move along, lady.
exactly, like
I was
this
here
one's
first.
taken. Yeah, I was here first, right? Get in line. There's a cue. You're jumping the line here. Don't be taking my lunch. All right. I think we're getting close. I may have to adjust some of the shapes a little bit, but this is helpful too because you can see the your negative spaces. So these black areas, and especially these wedge shapes here, if you just focus on those areas when you're, especially when you're drawing, but they become a lot more evident here when we're painting them out. You can see how close you've gotten to your original when you do this. So when you're drawing, that is one thing that is really helpful to get in the habit of doing, is not looking just at your subject, but looking at the negative space around your subject. And oftentimes it's easier for your brain to process those shapes because when you're painting or drawing a unknown recognizable object like a sunflower, your brain is screaming at you that that's not what it looks like. That's not what it looks like, And when you can focus off of the actual subject and just look at the shapes of the spaces around it, somehow it kind of quiets that voice in your head that interrupts and interferes with your ability to draw properly and draw what you're seeing. Because oftentimes if you listen to that voice, it's like, oh no, it should be more curved there or whatever, if you're like me, at least. That's kind of what is going on in my head, when I'm drawing. It may not be in the actual voice, but just kind of your thought process, or intuition or whatever, it's actually more helpful to not listen to that little voice sometimes, and just, if you want to paint or draw realistically, you kind of have to tune it out and just... and looking at these shapes and drawing the black part instead of drawing the sunflower, if that makes sense, drawing the line that you're seeing in the black or the shapes that you're seeing in the black instead of drawing the actual flower, then you can a lot of times get a more accurate picture. And so it's good when you're drawing and looking at your subject to stop every now and then and check out your angles of your negative space just to make sure that you're on track. And oftentimes you can catch mistakes before they get too bad, So you don't want to catch the mistake when you're on this side of the painting and you're already halfway done, with your drawing, and realize that everything needs to be shifted 2 inches to over or whatever, Okay, you get the idea.
I do, and thank you for clarifying that it's not an actual voice you hear.
It did make me sound kind of weird there. I had realized, I was like, they're gonna think I'm crazy. She's hearing voices.
I told you not to talk.
I told you not to do that.
I'm doing a show right now. Stop it.
Be quiet.
I can hear you.
Oh, geez. My apologies. For someone who has schizophrenic, genes in her gene pool, it's not as funny. My family has dealt with that. It's not pleasant, but definitely thankful not to have to deal with that. All right. Things just took a weird turn there. Sorry. TMI? Probably TMI. My grandmother suffered with that. It was not fun. All right. One last little bit. Now, when it gets over here, it gets hard. I'm having to kind of reach around, so really be better to turn it, but I'm going to leave it. Well, yeah, I don't know why I'm not turning it. I think I'm just not wanting to get my hand in it. There we go. And trying to avoid these, if you can see that really thick puddle there. So if you get any of those, try to kind of smooth them out because they will dry that way. and it'll kind of detract from the overall look of it. So when you're painting, just try to kind of, and to avoid that, if you will kind of start your brush stroke sort of in the middle, and then so it kind of offloads that puddle, and then work your way closer to it, or make sure when you do, you know, get the tip of that paintbrush in there that you don't have a lot of paint globbing on to the tip, and that way it won't deposit it right along the edge, because it's harder to get it smoothed out when it's right on the edge. And there's just like a slight roundedness to the tip. They're not like super pointy too, so I'm going to kind of round off some of that. It's like this one got that thick part all along the edge there. Okay, so I think that'll do. So now we can kind of see where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and use this black and sort of just use the tip of it and draw in these little dark areas. And I'm kind of laying it just the tip on its side, so I'm getting kind of a straight line here. I'm just going to kind of go around and mark out that center area there that's a little bit darker. And then kind of go out from there around. Try to keep that same sort of flattened line. I think it's kind of flattened because we're looking at it slightly at an angle. For whatever reason, I'm just kind of seeing a little bit of a flatness. And really all it is all these little teeny tiny things sticking out here out of the center of those seeds right there. And then that middle part is more flat. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, okay. It's a little bit easier to see there. Oh, I just got paint on my face. Okay. All right, so we'll just keep going there, just sort of dabbing with the very tip of the brush out until I kind of fill in that center part, and then I'll, when I'm done with my petals, then I can go in and I'll overlap this onto the yellow in some places. But for now, I'm just kind of giving a little bit more color there, and then maybe a little, just some sweeps in the center to darken that up a little bit too. Okay, that'll give us a good start, good base. All right, very good. Get my I've got paint all over me. I don't know how I've done it. I know my glove is going to end up with paint on it, but that's all right. I've been having carpal tunnel issues this week, and it's just helping keep my hand from going numb. Well, it's not very pretty. I ordered some pretty ones, so if you were worried about it, I've got a really pretty blue and purple one coming.
It's been the talk of the chat.
I know.
They're like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm watching this.
Such an ugly glove on. Why didn't she pick a prettier color?
Well, let's paint it real quick. Let's paint a sunflower on it.
That's true. I could do something, design on it. Good idea.
See? And then we can sell them.
There's a market for pretty.
All right, we'll sell a used wrist thing with paint on it.
No, I'm just saying that they're probably, there's enough people having carpal tunnel issues now that there's probably a market for some cute designed wrist braces. All right, we are so off topic. Let's get going here. All right, so Let's go ahead and do our reddish areas, and then we'll add some depth to our petals because they're right now obviously looking really flat. This makes it really obvious, doesn't it? Like before, the sunflower looked like, okay, that could be, you know, a finished sunflower. But now you see it and you realize, oh, wait a minute, no, it's like there's no depth at all. And so doing like a black and white of your painting can really help. Even if you had a different colored background, you'd still need to see that your colors were not dark enough. So looking at your reference photo with a black and white filter on it can help you see what the values of each particular area are if you have trouble with that. All right, so I'm going to mix up that same color as before, which was the Quinacridone Magenta and Burnt Sienna. And I might even add a little bit of Burnt Umber to it. And then maybe a little bit of Unbleached Titanium. That's just softening down that color a little bit. Doesn't need to be super dark, but you can still see that it's darker than my palette, which is the mid-tone gray. It's like 50% gray. So when you mix colors on top of a gray palette like this, it's really helpful because then you can see if your colors are going towards dark or light. These are obviously light, and then this one is darker. But it's not super dark. It's not as dark as these, obviously. So kind of right in the middle. All right, let's go ahead and go here. I'm going to use the for Filbert here. I'm going to just kind of draw in my petals there. And that looks really outlined. So what I'm going to do is wipe my brush out. Now I'm going to dry brush. And so I'm going to kind of pull that color off of where I just did and kind of draw it up. Wipe it off more. And since I'm using fluid paint, it doesn't take much paint to dry brush. In fact, you almost have no paint on your brush when you get this effect. So I'm going to just keep using this now that I've got the paint at the right consistency on my brush, and do several of these. So just don't go too thick with your paint. I'm going to go along the sides a little bit, about maybe halfway up. This is going up a little too far, and then I'm going to come down the middle and do one or two stripes down the middle there. A little bit more paint, wipe it off. Okay. And we'll definitely have to darken up this area too, so I think we'll do some glazing later if that's something that you've ever wondered what's glazing. Every time I do glazing, people always leave me comments like, what is glazing? So
It's
we'll
a style of donut.
You like the powdered sugar ones, right? Yeah, you like the glazed.
Well, I was up in New Hampshire for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, this week.
And through 3 trips, I think it was, 2 or 3 trips to Dunkin' Donuts, I was able to get a lemon donut done
Finally.
correctly.
Nice.
And a jelly donut done correctly.
Oh, sweet.
But not in the same place.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, the second place had the jelly donut done right, but somebody had bought all the lemon donuts, so they were out.
That's just wrong.
That was rude.
Very rude. Yes, Fitzy got to sleep in Mom's bed, and he would not go into his kennel last night. He was trying to convince Mark that he needed to be on the bed.
I was telling him, no, get in your kennel. And he looked at me, and then he stood there and waited for Angela to come in the room and looked at her like, is he serious?
Does he not know?
Does he not know the new rule?
I don't know where you're sleeping, Dad, but while you've been gone, there's a new. Yeah.
New rules. New house rules.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going a little bit darker and a little bit more over, over areas that are not going to end up this color, because I'll cover this with my pink, my yellow. So if you're like, this looks a little too much, it is a little bit too much. It is going in a little bit more than it'll end up. We'll get it there. What am I doing here? No, I did this wrong. This is over the top of this one. Okay, let me get some yellow. Some white. So this one goes like this. So you can see that softening off with the yellow. Once I add that yellow back in, it helps. So that's what we'll do to get the petals a little bit. So this one, I don't know. I mean, because of the overlapping, that's what makes it a little bit more tricky for a beginner. So I'd say this is probably not my easiest sunflower tutorial. I have some other ones where I've done them a lot easier. In fact, the very first sunflower tutorial I did from way back when is probably the most simplified version. But if you go on my website, you can do a search by subject. And we have literally over 1,000 videos on there of different, subjects, and I've painted sunflowers multiple times. So if you watch this one and you're like, yeah, I couldn't do that, and you need something a little bit easier to start with, then you might check out one of the other ones on my website there, Thankful Art. Then you go to the tutorials tab, and it'll take you there, and you can search for whatever. It's very, very good search engine. Okay, so we got it started here. Looking good. So you can see that the kind of the edges of that black area look a little bit like it's pasted on. So one of the things I like to do is go and kind of mess up my edges a little bit. So get yourself like a round brush or something, and we'll get some of our yellow color that's along those edges, and we'll kind of deliberately just slightly go over the black just a little bit, and that sort of blurs out that shape slightly. I think I'm gonna get the cadmium yellow with my yellow, cadmium yellow and white here, and just run it through. And keep a towel so I can kind of take off the color, because this is again one of those situations where we're going to kind of slightly dry brush. I may need to have I think I do need to have my thicker white, because this is not covering that black as much as I need it to. So I'm going to use a thicker paint. The heavy body acrylic works better for dry brushing in situations where you have to cover over a dark color. And this is, I want it to be pretty opaque here. So I'm using that thicker paint with that yellow will help give me better coverage. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to, ooh, got an ant on my sunflower. Yep, don't want him. Thank you very much. So I'm just making that a little bit bigger right there. widening out that petal a little bit, kind of cut it a little too much. And then sort of figure out where my highlight side is and just sort of bring that petal down where it overlaps. And I don't have to do all the petals, but just a few. A few of the biggest ones here. It'll help. And I might get some of that black. Come back in with the black. And kind of do like a little soft gray around. Kind of going over some of the light areas with a little bit of dry brush black too. So it's just not quite perfect. Just find that when you have like a really dark color like this and you cut in around it, it tends to look like clip art, you know. Like you kind of want a little bit of a fuzzy edge just to make it look a little bit better. Okay. I want the thicker white for this. I have to take this glove off. It's driving me crazy. It's like interfering and I'm having trouble getting my marks precise. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of quickly do this. I don't want it to take too long. But while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and add some more yellow and put it in the opposite direction. So let me go over my streaks there a little bit and kind of soften off that red. I'm just using this brush to create these long streaks. And you'll find going over that magenta color, you can kind of, oh, dried already. I'm going to mix up some yellow with that magenta color. Kind of use them together in some places. Okay, I'm going to get some magenta and the burnt umber. And use that to kind of darken up a few of these areas that are overlapping. Just right along the edge there. And we've already painted these in, so just kind of reinforcing the color. This is just a little bit darker than what I used before. Just going back in with this. Making a few. This is just adding more depth. That's all we're doing here. By making a deeper value. And by value, it just means light and dark. By doing a darker value here, we're going to get more depth because there'll be more contrast between our light and dark areas. And I want to make sure I'm not like outlining too much too, so kind of brush these out a little bit after you do them. And mostly it's going to be kind of underneath. Okay. I need to do my lighter colors on this side. I'm kind of skipping around. I need to just do one technique and all the way around, but keep seeing things and getting distracted. Little squirrel. Okay. All right, so getting some of that lighter value that had the white in it, and so I'm seeing right here where this kind of dips in over that black area right there. It comes down in. There we go. So that's a little bit better dark color. I'm going to kind of just go along the bottom here, add it. It's this color with a little bit of yellow in it. So that shadow color that I was using with the burnt umber and Quinacridone Magenta. I'm just going to kind of use it down at the base of the sunflower all the way around. Pull it out into my flower a little bit. You could do this before you put any detail on your petals, so just make sure it kind of blends in. You don't want it to be real obvious or like a outline around. Just going to blend it up into what we've already got going on. Thankfully, we've got our petals all kind of in, so when you're doing this, you want to make sure you're pulling in the same direction of the petal, so your direction is changing as you go around. Okay, there we go. All right, so this one's almost done. You can see kind of what we're shooting for here. Spray these. I do find that these dry out a lot faster when you make a mixture, so keep that in mind. You may have to spray more often. I haven't been paying attention to that, so I'm finding that I'm doing other stuff and then coming back and it's dry. All right, so that's a little bit bright, so I'm going to add a little bit of magenta to it. That's the India yellow and cadmium yellow medium. Get a little bit of white and add that. A lot of times when you're working with yellow, you're adding a little bit of white just to help make it more opaque, because those yellow colors tend to be really translucent. Okay. Use a little bit of that heavy body acrylic here, just to give it some weight. It's especially when I'm doing my kind of like overlapping of colors, that fluid paint is not moving the same way as I would expect it to, so I'm having a little bit of struggle to get the streakiness that I want. It's so smooth. I'm kind of going back and forth between maybe switching to the thinner paints, but I kind of find that you sort of at times need both, you know, so I don't know, I may end up kind of using both off and on. Definitely find that like the white is not covering like the heavy body does. Kind of that thickness of the paint matters too, as much as the amount of pigment in it. You can get a thicker layer of paint down. I think that's what it is. The fluid paint's just not wanting to cover. Alright, so getting some of my yellow here. I'm going to get some of this burnt umber mixture and some of this India yellow. Mix those two together, and this petal here has kind of a darker overall tone. It's in the shadow. And then right along the edge, it's a little bit lighter over here. Okay. Getting that darker color just right here. There we go.
How you doing?
I am not liking these. I'm not liking these. I'm gonna switch to a heavy body. I'm just not liking the consistency I'm getting. So I'm gonna get a little bit of India yellow with the heavy body acrylic here. And trying to decide if I want to switch brushes too. Might go with a little bit bigger brush. See, I'm going to go back to the 2 flat here. So let me get that India yellow in the heavy body and the heavy body white. See if I can get a better coverage here. It's just been kind of fighting me. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that thicker paint matters. It's just breaking differently. I'm used to using it, so it's slowing me down using the fluid acrylic right there on this one more than I expected it to. Fluid paints have their, you know, they're great for like the initial laying down of color. They go on so smoothly, but then when I want to do the blending stuff, they're just difficult sometimes, you know. They don't want to blend. They're too smooth, you know. Like I like the stickiness of the heavy body acrylic for when I want to blend and kind of lift and do these kind of flicking techniques that I like to do here, where I set the paint down and just kind of pull it down and let it flick down. This breaking, it's not doing it with the fluid. I'll show you on paper what I mean, because it's pretty dramatic, the difference. And if you're using fluid and trying to do the techniques that I'm doing, or using like a craft acrylic and trying to do some of the techniques that I do, you may be finding that this is an issue for you. So I'll go back to this. I'll do it in the so this is the heavy body. I picked up a little bit of that pink pigment just so you can see what I'm talking about. So when I set the brush down and pull, I can get this nice broken line, and it dry brushes just really easily, and it's also quite opaque where I'm setting it down. Whereas the fluid acrylic, let's use that yellow and a little bit of the magenta. And some of the fluid white. So the fluid acrylic, with about the same amount of paint on my brush, it's doing it, but it's going longer. You see, like when I flick it, I don't know, it's doing it on paper. It's not doing it on the canvas, so Maybe it's just me. Well, you can definitely see it there
Maybe it's maybe
where it's doing a full line, more thick line. It is breaking up on the paper here for me. So maybe if I have more paint on my brush, you'll see, yeah, there. So it's just not breaking up as easily, and it's a little bit more translucent where I'm putting it down. So I don't know. They didn't really show it on paper because it was doing the same thing. Maybe, yeah, maybe it's Maybelline. I heard that.
Okay, good.
Maybe it's just me. All right, just going in and doing a second coat over some of the black areas that I was trying to cover. Make sure I'm getting good lines on everything. And like this line is doing something weird right here. So I need it to go in right there. There we go. Yeah, I've been watching The Amazing Race, whatever. I'm realizing that we have our moments, but we definitely don't talk to each other like some of those couples do on that show. Like, oh my gosh. If you ever talked to me the way some of the, and vice versa, it's like, no way. Holy moly. Like, wow. I watched one, it's an older one, and the husband was like calling her like a dog, like, get over here. I said to come here. Wow. And I'm like, oh my goodness. That would not fly.
No, it wouldn't.
And he was like, when I say we're going. And I'm like, what? Oh, no, you didn't.
It reminds me of that Nate Bargatze skit. It's like, I've been doing my own laundry for the last 17 years. Next time I'm losing an argument with my wife, I'm just gonna say that. She's like, oh, argument over, you win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Mm-mm. It's too funny.
Yeah. Different relationships for
yeah, sure. For sure. Different times. All right.
I see that you're using your hand to steady your hand.
Yes.
And we had a question earlier actually about somebody who is challenged with having some shakiness in their hand while they're painting.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is definitely a good method.
And there you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is partly because I'm reaching over across and I don't want to put my hand down. So oftentimes I'll rest my hand on the canvas as I'm working, but then I end up with paint on my hand. So if I want to try to avoid that, I will use my other hand to brace myself. You'll like a lot of times easel painters, you'll see they have like a stick that rests across the top of the easel, and that they can rest their arm on and move around. And so this is my stick here, my version of that. But yeah, if you have shakiness, that's a way definitely to help, is to kind of hold your hand steady with your other arm. If both of them shake, then I'm not sure. Well, right. It might be tricky, so you could maybe use an object or something, that you could rest it against. But I do oftentimes will rest it, and turning the canvas helps, so if I haven't painted down here yet, then I can rest my hand on my canvas and work on this area and then move it down. You just have to watch where you're putting your hand. But a lot of times, especially on a small canvas like this, I can do that. And it's also easier just to kind of do it fast when you've got free range of motion, you know, so get your canvas moved to a spot where you can kind of easily move your arm. It's probably better for my hand doing it this way anyways, because when I'm flexing my hand this way is when I start to have issues, you know. The straighter I can keep it, the better. Okay, so I'm trying not to cover up too much of that red and leave some of it, but I do want to blend over it just a little bit because it does look a little bit, you know, hard. So, kind of softening off some of that area. Using white and India yellow here. So let me see where I'm at. I don't even know where I'm at anymore. Was it this? No. I'm like that. Okay, there we go. This is this one. I know. That is the bad thing about it. Moving it. Lose your spot. Okay, so I got a little bit too far over there, but we can fix it. I could get some of my black and just go back over that little bit right there. Okay. All right, so now I need to darken up the center area there, and this is where glazing comes in. So make sure your, you know, layers are pretty dry. And I'm going to use a little bit of a green. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Ultramarine Blue and burnt umber. And I'm going to add some yellow to it. So let's use the India yellow because it's kind of like the most transparent of my yellows that I have over there. So I've got a nice dark green here. I'm going to add a little bit more brown to it. Okay. I'm going to wipe that out. I don't want very much of this in my brush. And I'm just going to use what's left here with my glaze. I'm going to start very transparent. Glaze will help your paint stick to the canvas. So it thins out the paint like water does, but it's like a glue. And water will loosen the binder, the glue that's in the paint. Your heavy body acrylics and your fluid acrylics, they, you know, they come with a glue and pigment. That's basically what your paint is with acrylics. And if you had too much water, it loosens the glue. So this just adds glue back in, basically, is what we're doing. So I'm gonna go through here and just darken up this area. You can kind of go from the center out if you want. I'm not worried about my center getting this color on it at all, so you can go over that part as much as you need to. I really want to get that area, you can see where I haven't done it yet down here, but I want to get that area a little bit darker where these petals are going down and get it almost to the value of the center there. So it's not quite as dark, but it's close. Okay, and that will automatically like make that center of your flower seem deeper. Just keep adding layers. I don't know what I've got on there. Got something on my canvas. Fibers. So adding another layer here. This dries fairly quickly, so be careful if you're putting your second layer on that your first one is either still wet or totally dry. Don't want to do this while it's sticky. drying. Okay, so I'm going to leave that. And I might need to do it one more time. I see it, it's almost a little bit more green. It's almost like a lime green too. So I think I'll do another version that has more of like a green gold tone to it, and we'll tint it. So now that it's darker, we can tint it to whatever color we wanted. So we wanted it to be more pink overall. We could add, you know, a pink color. You can do the glaze with whatever colors you want as long as it stays transparent. So using colors that are in the phthalos, quinacridones, or any of the other colors that are transparent, translucent, and it'll say on the tube too, like that's semi-transparent with the black, the solid black. Well, of course this one doesn't have it on there. This one being open means that it's transparent, and that is the best for your, oh here, this one's got the solid. So you can see that the cadmiums are more opaque, and then the Indian yellow hue is translucent, transparent, fully transparent. And so that's why I like to use it for glazes. So let's go ahead and use it over here, and I'll add just a tiniest bit of ultramarine blue to try to get a really bright green, like a green gold.
When you have a moment, we got a question.
Okay, yeah, shoot.
Shoot.
It's a good time.
Alrighty, here we go. Let's see if it
It's not
works.
quite dry yet.
Oh,
Question for Angela. I've only seen you paint on a flat surface. What makes you like that over using an easel? That's from Regine. I hope I'm saying that right. Regine. Well, mainly for camera purposes. The flat surface is just easier. Plus I'm using a smaller canvas. So anything under like 16 by 20, you can do flat, and I can hold it easily in my hand and manipulate it pretty easily. So anything over like 20 inches tends to get really unwieldy, and you're having to kind of, you know, bumping into things and knocking into stuff, especially under the camera. So if I'm using any, you know, like if I'm painting a larger canvas, I always use an easel. So anything over like a 16 by 20, I'll use an easel, either a tabletop easel or a full standing easel. But I don't paint on those anymore because of YouTube. It's kind of taken over my studio work process.
And you got the name right.
Oh,
Good job.
good.
Bonus points for
Nice.
Angela, +2.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, so that's it. I do use them on larger canvases, but just don't.
Yeah, for the streaming and for the way the studio's set up,
Yeah, I
it's
can't.
just
I don't
easier
have
to
room
do it this
for it.
way.
Yeah, we don't have it. And since I'm not on camera and all we need room for is my hands, then we just, I'm not all about doing that. I don't want to be on camera. Who wants to have to do their hair when they go to work? Not me.
I have
I
to.
want to be able to be in my pajamas when I'm on work. If I want to.
I had to do my hair today,
You did.
and then I didn't even have to because the camera wasn't working.
Oh, for your meeting?
no.
No,
Was Zoom call?
for getting my my driver's
Oh,
license
that's right.
renewed.
Yeah, you got your driver's
I went to
license.
get it renewed, and I was like, okay, so
Got,
took a shower,
did your hair and did
did
all
my
of
hair
that.
up, combed my fingers through my hair, made it look nice,
Right.
and she's like, yeah, we're gonna have to use it from the last time. So it's my COVID picture from 2020.
Your hair was not great. No,
Yeah, and,
yeah, it's my fault.
It'll be that way until 2033.
You're welcome.
It's all right.
All right, so this is dark enough now. I went ahead and did that while we were talking. I did that green layer on there. Definitely like that that India yellow and just a tiny bit of ultramarine blue. So now I think I can go in and start adding work. Let's work on the center here because that's going to take a while to dry, and I want it to be completely dry before I put my final touches on my petals. So we'll start working on our center of our flower. So
And just real quick, do you have a tutorial that's dedicated strictly to using fluid acrylics?
Well, my earlier videos, I used craft and fluid acrylics a lot. Yeah, like the one where I do dots, the dot flower
Right.
one, and I mean, I have several that I've kind of used both, like this one, you know. So
So the early videos were pretty
earlier
much all
videos were
fluids.
either fluids or student body that were softer,
Right.
and then yeah,
Very good.
then I started doing the others. So okay.
To the center.
Okay. Let's do yellow or burnt sienna and burnt umber. Let's try those two. I think I have some magenta in there too. And then some unbleached titanium. Actually, I kind of see some green in this one that I'm looking at. So maybe we'll do a little bit of ultramarine blue and India yellow and add that to the burnt umber. Let's see if that looks good. It's kind of transparent, so this was our translucent, you know, color mixture, so it's not gonna be super opaque, but we're just going to kind of use it to tint that center section there. And then I definitely need a little bit of opacity, so you can use white or unbleached titanium or Titan Buff. They have white in them. And add a little bit more blue. Okay, so let's see. And what I'm going to do is it kind of makes this sort of spiral. So it sort of does this. Kind of does a little starburst or sunburst from the center. Spiral out. And this is literally just using the tip of this brush. I'm switched to an angle bright. This is the Aspen series, so it's a little short-handled Aspen. Okay, so do that. That looks good. I like that. And then once I get it out far enough, I think like kind of right in here, I'm going to start to kind of separate out a little bit farther these dots, so leave a little bit more dark showing. And then maybe get a little bit of that pink as well, that first color that I had with the burnt umber, burnt sienna with the unbleached titanium. And do kind of find my in-between bits here where I have my dark areas and sort of just go just above the dark lines that I've done before with this color and dab in some highlights. This may be a little too light, but we can always go in and glaze like we did on our flower to darken up these areas that we want darker. So it's probably what I'll do. I'm just going to add my light areas. I've got my darkest darks in here. I'm just trying to add little highlights to those little tiny bits. And then we need to add darker bits around the outside here. So I'm just going to get some black and burnt umber. Use the tip of this brush, turn it upside down, and tap. And if I want them to be kind of flat, I can kind of pull to the side a little bit. Just tap in. They're really uneven, so, and they kind of dip down where some of the petals are, so in between you can kind of come out a little bit where the petal comes down. Kind of helps define the petals a little bit too. Okay, just go quickly. I find with something like this, just going quickly and not overthinking it helps. Just watch out for making patterns, because you can tend to end up with like the same thing over and over again, you know. So just watch that. But just little dibby dabs, keep it random. Random's better. And then kind of make sure that you have the same color in the middle too, so don't just do it along the edge and leave it. Make sure you're dabbing a few of these colors in here, especially if they're a little bit off from what you've already got. That will help it integrate. That looks pretty good, I think. All right, so I definitely want to go a little bit lighter. The photograph doesn't have it very light in the center, but I want to go just slightly lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of that burnt sienna and some white. And just right in the middle, maybe do just a little bit of a an area that's a little bit lighter. And it's not quite in smack dab in the middle. The middle would be up here. So I'm kind of down from the middle just a little bit because we're off center slightly. Okay. Whoop. Didn't need to have that. There we go. All right. And then we can kind of highlight a few little random bits here and there. Up toward the outside. So just going in back in and making sure that I have, you know, I had that initial kind of light purpley color, and then I did the black on top of that and left plenty of that purple showing. So there's like a light pink underneath everything still, and then we did the green on top of that and leaving some of, you know, so each time of this that we're doing this, we're covering a little bit more of that purple, but it should still be visible underneath there, and that'll kind of help give it a lot of depth. So I think that looks pretty good. The color is a little off, so I think I'll let that dry, and then we'll just glaze a little bit of color in here and help kind of bump up the, we can adjust the values in certain areas too. All right. So let's finish up our petals here. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I think I'll just add a little bit more pink in some areas. So I'm going to get my flat again, get my magenta, and I'm going to add the India yellow to it this time. So it'll make it kind of a red almost. And then add some white. Okay, that's too red, I think. So I'm going to go more magenta. So not quite as much yellow. We'll see. So before I was using burnt sienna with the magenta to make my pink. And so this time it's just going to be a little bit different pink. A little bit more of a true pink color with that white, and I want it fairly light. We'll see. I may have to add more yellow to it. We'll see how it looks. I'm noticing that the kind of striped look is not kind of coming through, so I'm going to try to kind of get in the middle here and do some little stripies that come down the middle of the flowers.
And what brush is that again?
This is the 2 flat.
Thank you. But is it though?
Is it 2 flat? I don't know. Yeah, so that's doing better. That's kind of giving me a little bit more brightness to those pink areas and definitely like defining them a little bit better. So find that center and find your end, and then you can kind of follow the curve of the petal. These aren't straight, these are kind of curved with the curve of the petal. So like this one curves this way, this one curves this way. And it goes almost right to the tip. Okay, definitely helping. I'm going to get a little bit more of that darker color. Help define some of the edges of the petals if they need it. This is where like you have these overlapping sections, so you want to look at those and make sure that you're getting a good, that it's obvious at first glance which petal's in front of the other one, you know. I mean, sometimes they kind of blend in, but most of the time you can tell which one is sort of in front, and so you need to make sure that you're giving enough contrast to your petals so that that is happening. You're able to tell which petal is which. And if you can't, then come in and do a little bit extra depth. And just using the corner of that brush, so I'm not using the flat edge at all, I'm just using the blade edge of it and creating these lines coming up.
If you turn the real sunflower facing this way a little bit, I can get a great shot. Side cam maybe. Oh, look at that, huh?
Mm-hmm. It looks very yellow on there. It looks a lot yellower than it does in person.
Yeah, in person it is pale yellow.
It's a very pale color, yeah. Well, you can see it on the color there now. Yeah, that is weird. Our side cam colors are off. Okay, so getting some white and some of that cadmium, or the, yeah, let's go ahead and get some cadmium yellow medium and the white. I'm using heavy body white here. I'm going to do my final kind of highlights on here now. So I have my paint fairly thick right on the tip. The brush. There we go. All right, getting some of that magenta color and coming this way with it. Just trying to define this one that's coming up here. And sometimes you end up covering stuff you don't want to cover. Just take it slow. Don't have too much paint on your brush, and you can kind of help control it, how much goes down. And I'm kind of deliberately going over the top of some of the edges of that red to help blend them in too. So some of the working on the transitions between colors. And then look at any of these edges along the black that need to be darkened up or brightened up, whatever. Okay, I'm getting there. Generally, a little bit of highlight along the overlapped the petals that are in front, especially on the tips, can really help bring them forward. You know, look at your picture, depends on the reference, you know, where the sun was in your reference. My reference doesn't really have a strong light source, which can be kind of tricky for painting, because it's not, you know, it's not got a lot of obvious light hitting from one side or anything, but it's got enough depth in this area that I think it's okay. Let me get a little bit of that green and a little bit of my yellow, so that center color, a little bit of dark color, and I'm going to come up in some areas there.
I was busy fiddling with the side cam and I missed your biggest fan coming in.
Noah. Hi, Noah. I miss you. We'll get to see her in a couple weeks.
I got to see her yesterday.
I know. I'm so jealous.
I know. But she was more... I think she was more excited to see Spency.
Oh. That's funny. Everybody's more excited to see Spency. Even the dog likes Spency more than us. Noah's our granddaughter.
One of them.
One of them, yeah. All right, so just adding a little bit of brighter yellow there. You can see the picture, how it's kind of a little bit brighter yellow in the middle, but, you know, I toned it down with that green so that it's not super bright. But I did want a little bit of a lighter area there. I think we're pretty close. And now it's the point where I can, you know, look at it and just see overall if my values are dark enough everywhere. I think I could probably go a little bit darker on some of my values, especially between my petals. So I think I'm going to do that by glazing, because it's just the easiest way of not having to repaint everything. So I'm going to get the angle brush. Make sure that your paint is dry. And then we can just pick a color that is already in here. So I'll probably use that magenta color that I was doing before with the burnt umber and magenta, but just go a little bit more towards the black. Maybe even add a little bit of blue to it. Or you could use black also. I've used black to create... black is a good color for reds to shadow, for shadow colors. All right, so we'll get that. It's got a little bit of blue, so it's slightly purple. And got a bit of the burnt umber and magenta.
What was the white stuff you dabbed quickly?
The white stuff I dabbed?
Yeah, you grabbed the stuff that's in the bottom right-hand corner.
Oh, that's glaze.
Okay.
Yeah, so grab my glaze, and just need to make sure these are dry. All right, and I'm gonna wipe off the butt end of my angle brush, this side, so that it doesn't have as much paint, and that way it won't lay down as much paint when I do this. So I'm gonna go in here and just kind of go right along the outline between those petals and have the point towards the crease. So I want the point where it's going underneath the top petal. Okay. And maybe I'll add a little bit to the middle of that one. So everywhere where there are two petals meeting, I'm going to kind of come up underneath. Add just a little bit more depth. So you can see the ones I've done and the ones I haven't done. You can see that just a little bit more depth to them. A little bit more obvious value shift. That's all we're doing. And I don't have to repaint anything or worry about any of my previous layers because I'm doing this transparently so we can still see. Ooh, see, that was wet. The yellow was wet. And we can still see everything that we've already done underneath. We're just darkening it up a little bit with a translucent layer of glaze. We already did this kind of in this area, but I'm just going a little more focused this time. Instead of doing the whole area, I'm just doing parts of it where I want it really dark. Okay. All right, this is helping a lot. Plus we can kind of tuck it in underneath there some too on my center. I need to mix up a little bit more of it. I'm running out. Okay, let's try that. Much better. Much better. Much more depth there. Now, okay. Now we're getting there. You gotta be kind of brutal with it sometimes, you know. Your painting will be so much better if you know, aren't afraid of doing this. It's kind of scary because you've already got a painting that you kind of like, but it's just missing that one little thing, you know. And this is a way to where you can just, you know, slightly adjust the contrast without changing the whole thing. So be sure you're utilizing this technique because it really makes a difference. Using it in between some of the colors. You can also use your finger to kind of help blend it out if there's any areas where it went on a little too obvious or too thick. But, okay, much better. This is 1,000 times better. And this is what takes your painting from okay to great sometimes, you know. It's just this, adding a little bit more dark, adding a little bit more light, that contrast gives it so much depth. Makes it much more realistic. Just a simple step. Okay, I think we're just about there. And then we can do this with color too, you know, so if we decided that we, you know, we need more pink. And that happens, you know, sometimes when you do this, and I'm going to do it in the center here and just kind of darken up around the center. I might use a little bit of just blue this time. Just some ultramarine blue. But just adding a little tint of color can really, you know, change the look of a painting. So I'm noticing there's kind of like, you know, that ring like this one has of color around, and I kind of lost it. I sort of have a nice like blend everywhere. So if I want to get that ring look back, I'm just going to maybe try glazing with just the magenta. maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, but burnt sienna is opaque, so I can't use too much of it for a glaze. It'll go on cloudy and cover up our underlayers, which we don't want. You want to glaze using pigments that are transparent because it won't be as cloudy looking. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go in and sort of go along this ring and sort of about, I don't know, 1/2 inch away from the edge, and just sort of brush in on all of these. Sort of a little bit more magenta. It's very subtle, so I don't want this to look like a stripe all the way around it. I want enough translucency here that it's not going to be really obvious what I'm doing, but hopefully when I get it done, it will look more like a ring. See, it's already kind of starting to form. You can see that looks like, you know, kind of like a little ring of magenta going around. I'm really pressing down here. I don't have a lot of paint in my brush, so I'm pressing down to get that color to come off. You can do this with yellow, you can do it with whatever color. So if I wanted a brighter yellow along the, you know, outside of my petals, I could do it with my yellow. Okay, now I've got the ring, right? I see it. I see it. Okay. And then again, I could go in with like the India yellow with some of the glaze, just the India yellow, and glaze on top of my light colored areas, and it'll bump up that color to make it much more vivid yellow. I'm not going to do it at the very tip of all of them, but I'm going to kind of go above where I did my magenta and add a little bit more brighter yellow. Okay, I think pretty happy with that. And you can just keep going with this, you know, if you sometimes when you glaze your values, you know, it takes your brightest values down some, so sometimes you have to go back in and add your lighter colors back on top. So, you know, you might have to go in and adjust a few areas where you want a little bit brighter coverage. You know, just a few little petals where, you know, maybe you need a little pop of highlight. Back in, like there's some lines that come all the way down on some of these. So that would be the final thing that I would do is that, you know, taking the cadmium yellow and white and just adding a few little lines down into my dark areas to define those petals even more. And just adding that final little touch of highlight back in. And since I'm only doing it in very small areas, it's not covering up all of what I've already done. It's just adding a few little details to them. Okay. Just a few. So haven't done it here, I did it up here. So, you know, it also depends on the amount of realism that you want to achieve, because at any point we could have stopped, you know, and called it good. Like, you know, there's so much interpretation with art, and I've done multiple other sunflower paintings where I didn't go this real with them, and they look great too. So, you know, you do what appeals to you. with your art. I want it to look like your art, not mine, you know. So this is just a starting point for you. Give you a few tools, give you some courage to try. I know when I was starting to paint, I absolutely hated it at first. In fact, I dropped out of my college painting class because they didn't teach you how to do stuff. They just gave you paints and said go. And I was so frustrated because I wanted to know how to do the techniques and they didn't teach me that. And so that's one of the reasons I think I love teaching so much, because I want you to have the tools and teach you the techniques, and then you can do whatever you want with them, you know. But to me, without the techniques, it was like, what am I doing? I don't even know how to start. And I had so many paintings where I just like was so frustrated all the way through because it was drying too fast or things were happening and I didn't know how to fix them. So hopefully we'll save you a little bit of that pain. I wish the YouTube was around when I was learning. I had to learn from books. I learned from decorative painting books that told you exactly what color to put where, you know. It's like, I guess that's what I needed to learn. I didn't want to be left on my own. And some artists do, you know. Some artists don't like structure. I'm a structured person. I want to know what to do. If I'm learning something, I want it laid out. So I get it. So you learn the techniques and then you can do whatever you want with them. That's the joy of it, the beauty of it. You take these techniques and you do you. And I try to kind of do different styles that way too, you know. So we've done multiple different styles over the years just so that we've got a little bit of something for everybody. Alright, doing a little bit of darker, or brighter I should say, in the center of that. I'm going to let that dry and then shadow back over it. Just give it a second to dry. I'm going to take my burnt umber, maybe a little bit of that green color that I had, ultramarine blue, and yellow. Just wanted a little bit more depth in that area there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's a little bit better, just so that it's different than the rest. Get a little bit of the black and go kind of around it with a little bit more black. Just in that center area there. Okay, and I'm going to take my paper towel and just kind of dab off so that it's not so harsh. Okay, there we go. Now I've got a center that's got a little bit more interest. I think I want a little bit darker. Over it again, just slightly. There we go. Yeah. So it's just slightly darker than our reference so that you can kind of see it. I think I'm done. Let me sign it. And I mean, the center doesn't have a lot of detail in my picture, so you can add more to it if you want to.
You can show the real sunflower to see
Yeah.
the definition.
It's pretty hard to see. So because it's so dark, you know, and it's kind of at that angle there, as you can see. So I might just do a little bit of that lightness that's right there, like up in this area here. So get a little bit of that burnt umber and a little bit of yellow. And just you can see it's not perfectly symmetrical either. It's one of the things, if you're painting flowers especially, that I found, you know, when I'm doing flowers just, you know, from memory or from, you know, just having fun and doing them kind of impressionist style, they tend to be, I tend to give them much more symmetry and perfect them a little bit more than is natural. You know, so if you want them to look a little bit more realistic, this is the way to go. I like that a lot better, actually, having that little bit of green there. That looks good. All right, I think I'm going to leave that there and call it good and sign it. And we'll say thank you for watching tonight. Appreciate you guys.
Got a comment here that I
Okay.
thought was awesome.
Thanks for making these videos. I'm still a beginner in painting, but your tutorials made it very easy for a guy like me to paint. Oh, thank you, Mandar. Mandar Joshi. That's awesome. I love that. That's exactly why I like to do these. And I honestly started doing YouTube on a whim. I did not set out to be a video creator at all. I had my digital camera and
Just sharing
what I was doing in my kids' classes that I was doing locally here in town. I'd been teaching for, you know, almost 20 years, just off and on with local students. And it's amazing, the little home artist from Arkansas has gotten to meet people from all over the world doing this. It's crazy. It's really amazing. And I appreciate you guys who watch and who support us on Patreon. We have the traceable up for this already, so if you're interested in painting along, you can find that outline, so it'll be all drawn out for you, ready to go. All you have to do is print it out to the size of your canvas and then trace it on. And I've showed how to trace. I did tracing there's several videos, but I did it recently. I can't remember which one I did.
one of your beginning art.
The bicycle one.
Oh,
I
that's right.
I used a traceable in the bicycle one. So, but yeah, patreon.com/AngelaFineArt if you're interested in the traceable. And you can also find the link to that on my website if you go there, thankfulart.com. So thank you guys for watching. Oh, super chat.
No.
Give
thought
me
we
a
were
break
done.
here. Give me a break.
You got to jump in there.
Slow
I'm
down.
just closing it down.
I see that.
We got to chat.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Thanks for sharing your talents, Angela. It is a blessing to us. Oh, thank you, Angela. Very sweet.
awesome.
So
Thank you
sweet.
so
Thank you
much.
for your
That's great.
generosity. That is awesome. We love it. We love getting to meet you guys, and yeah, all over the world. It's just really added so much to our lives. I learned so much from doing these videos for you guys. If I was not doing this, I would still be painting butterflies and nests and not have painted all the thousands of paintings that I've done with you guys. It's crazy. As an artist, you challenge me to try new things, and that's what it's all about. I really appreciate you guys and appreciate all those who watch our videos, share them, like them, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next Tuesday. We've got our new schedule out for June already, so be looking forward to those videos, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.